Hi, thanks for joining me. Today I'm having a last ride on Dave, the 1942 Harley Davidson WLA. I introduced him in an earlier video when I got him out of winter hibernation. I'll put a link to that at the end in case you want to know a bit more about him. Now, I had intended doing more videos on him this year, but unfortunately he just doesn't get out very often. Now, I've owned Dave for about 5 years and didn't really have any particular plans to sell him, but a good friend of mine has wanted a WLA for a long time and suddenly found himself in a position to actually buy one. I'm afraid Dave does spend a lot of time in the garage, so it wasn't really a hard decision to let him go to a mate that I know will appreciate and use him. I've still got Libby, my 43 WLA, and she's a keeper, so I'm not really losing out. And I will see Dave a lot anyway, because we do hang out together, along with a couple of other mates with WLAs, so we'll be out riding together. This is us at a run out to Fimber Cafe a little while ago. Next time, hopefully there'll be 4 of us. Dave had all his military gear removed and civilianised a long time ago. Now, the new owner wants him put back to how he would have been supplied to the army, so the plan is for me to have him back for the winter and do a rebuild. A lot of the military gear came with the bike when I bought it, so I'll do a complete strip down, repaint and rebuild as a winter project. I'm thinking I might do a video diary too as the build progresses. It might just make some interesting content for the channel. We'll see. Anyway, I haven't planned this run to take in any interesting places. Like I said, it's just a goodbye run and probably the last chance as he's going shortly. The weather forecast's pretty grim for the next week or so, and today it's forecast for rain in about an hour, so I just thought I'd grab the opportunity while it was fine. Sure enough, shortly after I got back, the rain started. Good timing. I'm not doing a long run, just a circuit round the local villages and back roads. I'll let Dave speak for himself some other time, so I just love listening to the exhaust note. just pushing 60 mile an hour and steady as a rock. Not bad for an 80-year-old boy with a side valve engine. Only problem is you've got to stop these and the brakes ain't brilliant, so we start braking and peeling off some speed quite early. Seeing as it's the last run, it sort of got me thinking of all the other bikes I've had and sold over the years. I've been riding since 1967. Bloody hell, that's 56 years. I was watching Mr. Darcy and the OlMan channel recently, and Darcy was on about having to retake his motorcycle test so that he can move on past his A2 licence. He was explaining all the different stages you have to go through. What a palaver. No wonder young folk today aren't starting out on two wheels like we did. I'll put a link to their channel in the description in case you haven't come across it. Really good stuff. It got me thinking about my test. I remember taking it. It took about 15 minutes. I turned up at the test centre with my bike and the examiner walked out with me holding a clipboard. He simply told me to ride up the road and just keep turning left to take me round the block, and at some point he would step out into the road for me to do an emergency stop. I rode round a couple of times before he appeared in front of me holding up his clipboard. We went back to the test centre. He asked me a few questions about the highway code, and that was it. Full bike licence. Thank you very much. I remember a mate of mine taking his test at the same place a little while after, but his bike had broken down. Now that wasn't unusual in them days, and he'd borrowed his brother's Velocette combination. He was asked to do exactly the same, just ride round the block. Problem was, he wasn't used to having a sidecar sticking out another 3 foot, so as he pulled out from the curb where he'd been parked, the sidecar hit the back of the car parked in front. Of course he failed his test. On a happy note, he did retake it a few weeks later on his own bike and he passed. Things were just so much easier then. I've owned and sold loads of bikes over the past 56 years. My very first one was a BSA C12, bought from a mate just for a few quid. The vast majority just came and went without any sort of photographic record, because I never had a camera back then. The first bike I actually photographed was the third one I'd owned. That was around 1970. The year before, Hell's Angels 69 had hit the cinemas, and Easy Rider was the current big cult film. Like many young bikers, I was smitten with the chopper cult. I just had to have one of my own. Of the two Easy Rider bikes, my favourite was Dennis Hopper's Billy bike. A bit less extreme than Captain America. A mate of mine at the time was selling a basket case, Sunbeam S8. Now that to me was the perfect candidate. After several months beavering away in the garage at the back of my mum's house, this emerged. I was so chuffed with it, I went all over on it. Even did what for me at the time was an epic journey, from home in Sheffield down to Brighton and back for a weekend. It never missed a beat, but on the way back up the M1 in heavy rain, the charging light came on. Fortunately, I was near to one of the services and pulled in to have a look before the battery went flat. As I'd suspected, it turned out to be water in the dynamo. That sticks out the front of the crankcase, right behind the front wheel. All the water spray was just hitting the front cover and getting inside. It were an easy fix. I just took the front cover off, dried out the brushes, then put it back and taped a plastic bag over it. Worked great, and the rest of the journey without a problem. When I got married, our transport was a 500 BSA A7SS. I'd actually modified it and fitted a A10 650 engine to give it a bit more power. This is it in the early 70s on a camping holiday to Wales. It was always fun doing the weekly shop with the wife on the back holding the carrier bags that wouldn't fit in the saddlebags. Ended up selling it to a mate for 60 quid. He gave me part of the money, and then for whatever reason we lost contact and never did get the rest out of him. Cheers, mate. They're always old British bikes, normally bought cheaply, and I didn't cross over to the dark side till 2004. My first Japanese bike was this beast, and what an introduction that was. A real naughty boy bike, and yes, it did get me into trouble. I eventually sold it before I went and killed myself on it, but I still miss it to this day. That was a stunning bike. My oldest bike is this 1921 Sparkbrook Model A. 2.5 horsepower, no clutch or kickstart, but a 2-speed gearbox. There are a couple of short videos of it on my channel. The one I did most miles on was this Ural combination. For several years I was commuting to Cleethorpes twice a week and clocking up 250 miles a week in all weathers. It just kept going and going. I even did a couple of touring holidays over to France on it. Anyway, I've rambled on enough and we're coming to the end of my ride, so I'm going to wrap it up there. Hope you found my old bike reminiscences interesting and enjoyed my last ride on Dave. Don't forget, leave me a like, drop a comment, and if you want to watch more of my ramblings, please subscribe to the channel. Hope you can join me again, so cheers for now.